It's Friday, June 7th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On Barnstable Today, we learn more about the Spring Herring Count Project, mark our calendars for some great events at HYCC, and a public safety career spanning 34 years serving the community is celebrated. Now for a look at municipal and legislative notes. The Barnstable Police Department has issued a traffic advisory for this weekend. The Tour de Barnstable Charity Bike Ride will be taking place Sunday, June 9th between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. The start and end of the ride is at Aselton Park, the corner of South Street and Ocean Avenue in Hyannis. Be aware of your surroundings and practice patience. For details on the route and event, www.tourdebarnstable.com. A career that spans over 34 years in the fire service was celebrated last Friday at the Hyannis Fire Station. Deputy Chief Dean Melanson was honored with a day-long open house. Many town officials, police, and firefighters stopped by to wish Depp good health in his retirement and to share a memory or two.
When I started back in '85, we had somewhere around 3,000 runs a year. And now we're pushing 7,000 runs. We're right in that area, so the call volume's doubled. The intensity of that has doubled because it's still one station. So we do need the additional staffing to keep up the high level of service, the high level of quality that we try to give every day. And yeah, so it's when I started, there were 3 firefighters on the floor most days to handle the calls that were coming, and now there's 12. As far as the firefighting goes, that's changed a lot. The gear that we wear, there's a lot more of it. It's better, it's heavier. The fires are 10 times more intense with the amount of stuff we've brought into our homes and such. So the firefighting, when I get on, the mistakes you could make now easily can kill you. The fires are hotter, they move faster. We've gone with a lot more water to make the attacks, and there's a lot more to do. On the EMS side, I started off in an ambulance with no paramedics. We didn't have any of that. Came here to Hyannis. Now we've got, ALS in all the trucks. We're given just a wonderful level of care. We're partnered at the hip with the hospitals to give care. We're blessed to have Cape Cod Hospital right here in Hyannis. So that has grown leaps and bounds over my career. And then this is just such a wonderful community, and that's one of the things that hasn't changed from the first day I came here to today. The folks in our community have just been awesome to work with. They look out for us. We have a great partnership. All of my sister agencies like the Barnstable Police, I can't say enough about. The hospital, the schools, all of the different people we work with. It's just been so much of a joy. There's so many people I'm going to miss seeing every day because they're just so wonderful to work with.
We've had such a great relationship, and Dean's on my speed dial. Anything that happens in Hyannis, either at the Hyannis Youth and Community Center or at a beach or any of our programs, we could call him for advice, we could call him for any help that we needed. He's just been a godsend to us, and he stop in, check on things, see how things are going. If he had questions about, he just went way above and beyond.
We've saved some ducks, we've saved some cats and dogs out of pipes and different things like that. I've had the pleasure of working with crews to deliver 2 babies, so that that's always nice. And just being able to help people and have be there on their worst day, be empathetic, being able to give them good quality service is huge. We've had too many dark days, and so those nice days, those days that put a smile on your face, help deal with all the other stuff. So I've been blessed to have a lot of great mentors in the department, a lot of great colleagues, and just everybody cares and they've worked hard, so it's been an awesome adventure. A big kid just having fun.
He worked with me the whole time I was chief, and the memory is just a day-to-day thing that I could always count on him for anything that was ever needed for the department and the community. And he did a tremendous job all the years, basically the whole growth of Hyannis. He has been in the, overseeing the Fire Prevention Bureau, and with all the changes that have happened with especially the commercial properties in the community. And Hyannis is a very busy community, especially with the commercial environment that we have here. And he's done a tremendous job working with all the different agencies in the community, and he's become renowned as one of the leading experts, so to speak, in fire codes and ordinances, especially for commercial properties. And he just does a tremendous job, and I'm very proud of him, and I wish him all the best.
I've worked with him for coming up on 30 years in a variety of responsibilities, most recently fire prevention. He's been a great friend and a fantastic mentor. So I wish him all the best.
Saved my life. Cape Cod Chrysler, January 15th, 1988. I'll never forget you for it, Dean. You saved my life.
Well, he was just always there for everybody, and always the first person in, the last person out, and just ready for everybody.
Dean, I just want to tell you I learned a lot from you, and we're going to miss you, and welcome to the retired life.
I wish long, happy retirement, and he gets to enjoy his family as much as he wants. And don't forget about us. I'm sure he won't.
1,000 memories of fires and training exercises together. He's been a constant factor in all of our lives here in the town of Barnstable for a long time. It's going to be very strange to not go to a fire and have Dean there. And so that'll be my having to get used to it. Yeah.
What do you want to tell the residents of Hyannis on your last day here?
I want to say thank you for all the caring and concern that they've given us over the years. We can't do our job if they don't realize we have to do our job and what it takes. And they've been supportive both emotionally and financially. They've helped us, and they've done a great job. I want to say this is the best job in the world. And being here at Hyannis has made it even better. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. I've had a great run. I appreciate all the help. I appreciate all the thanks, and it's been awesome.
The annual river herring runs begin in the spring when waters have warmed up, with alewives migrating first, followed a short time later by the bluebacks. For the Marston's Mills River Herring Run, the fish travel from Nantucket Sound through the Three Bays Estuary, then up the Marston's Mills River via fish ladders at Mill and Middle Ponds to their final spawning destinations in Middle Pond and Mystic Lake. Natural Resource Officer Amy Croto and Heather Rockwell from Barnstable Clean Water Coalition join us for an update on this year's count. My first year volunteering for the town of Barnstable and the herring counts was really quite interesting. With me today, we have Natural Resource Officer Amy Croto, and we have Heather Rockwell from the Barnstable Clean Water Coalition. What a season.
It was a really good
season. It was
season.
cold.
It was warmer than last year.
Right? It didn't snow.
As much.
As much. Yep. And it looked like there were a lot of volunteers this year.
There were, yeah. A huge thank you to all of the people who volunteered for the herring count this year. In total, I had 44 people counting at Middle Pond, where I run our count program for the town. And we counted 2,517 fish this year, which is effectively double what we counted last year. So this year, the run really started right on April 1st,
yes,
like it's supposed to, in theory.
Which is very unusual.
World. Yeah. And went all the way until May 31st, which was a very long, drawn-out counting season. So the fact that people continued to show up and count really is just, indicative of what a great volunteer population we have here in Barnstable.
Right, and that was Middle Pond. How about Mill Pond?
Mill Pond was great too. Again, thanks to all of our volunteers that work at both fish ladders. We had about 55 volunteers who were out there daily. They're counting from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in these hourly slots. We had a great year. We doubled what we did last year, so our final count was 4,521.
Wow, so there's a little bit of a difference from Mill Pond, which is basically they're coming up from Warren's Cove. At that point, they cross 28, they're in the pond, yay, we're here. But the journey's not done.
Right, they then continue that journey all the way behind River Road, go underneath River Road, continue all the way up to Rosa Lane, where there's an additional culvert, and then further up the Marston's Mills River to the 1,000-foot fishway that we call the flume before they get into Middle Pond. There are some very open and shallow sections along River Road, and there is a lot of predation that occurs, just naturally because they are a keystone niche species. They're important to all of our local wildlife as a food source. So there's definitely a difference between the amount of fish that you get at Mill Pond, which is indicative of our total spawning population, and then the amount that actually make it to the spawning grounds, which is the count at Middle Pond.
Right. And Heather, tell me, Barnstable Clean Water Coalition, we're talking about clean water, but you're counting herring. What's up with that?
Well, you have to have clean water for, their herring are a key indicator species. So looking at we're out there actually weekly monitoring, doing stream flow measurements, nitrogen measurements in the Marston's Mills River where both of these fish ladders are located. So, without clean water, that's going to be a little bit of an issue. It's going to affect the herring.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and when we talk about, getting up into that Middle Pond area, they're going to spawn. So we noticed this year, and I told my husband I would ask because it's been bugging him. He was a prolific counter this year, but he noticed that they were pooling and going back down.
Yes. So it's a very brief period of time
I guess.
during which spawning occurs. There's the temperatures that each of your species will run at, and then there's a temperature that they'll spawn at. Once they've spawned, the adults really have no further purpose being in our freshwater ponds. So they leave. They emigrate back out to the sea.
They leave their babies and eggs
They
over
leave their
themselves?
babies behind. Yeah, it's pretty typical in the wild world to just ditch your kids. So they leave the kids in the ponds for the summer, and they get to feed on, our zooplankton that's available in the column there. Right. And then at the end of the summer, sometimes stretching into the fall, sometimes all the way towards the end of December, those young will then also emigrate back out into the ocean, and they'll spend their first 1 to 3 years there before they return for their first spawn.
Wow. And what we noticed over at Mill Pond was that there's definitely a fluctuation of temperature as well, from even air to water from the Middle Pond area. Does that affect the herring?
It can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because if it's not a suitable temperature for spawning, say, in Middle Pond yet, but it is for Mill Pond, they may hang out in Mill Pond for a little while. Bluebacks can even spawn within the stream. They see that from time to time, whereas alewives pretty strictly inside the pond. So it always just, it's temperature cues. And so I think that's part of the reason why this was such a long, drawn-out spawning season, was because we had so much fluctuation in temperature.
Right. And then I remember an email from you, Heather, that had said, don't stop counting. There's a whole bunch of them still coming.
Yeah.
Because we had this lull. There was nobody in the runs.
Right. Yeah. And again, a lot of that's temperature driven. The alewives come up first. When the water warms up a little bit more, the bluebacks follow them. And yeah, there was a little bit of a lull, and the volunteers have been out there since April 1st. And when you start to get those days in early or mid-May where they start to not see a whole lot, they're like, oh, it's all done. And we're like, no, it's not. We know they're pulled up, in the lower parts of the river, and they're still on their way. So
Yeah.
Really. So almost doubled over this year. That's a good indicator of something?
It could be just a good indicator of recruitment from 3 years prior.
Okay.
Survival of any year classes. These are relatively small populations. So like a 5% incidental catch in the Atlantic herring fishery could take out an entire run because they're so small. So there's so many variables that go into, 1 year being good versus another. But I can say that for the past at least 3 years, we've been able to get fry physically out of the pond. There have been years where it's been completely dry and they've been stuck overwintered. So you don't get good recruitment 3 years later because of an event like that. So there's just a lot of different things that go into it.
Right.
But yeah, we're just happy to have more fish this year. It's a good thing.
It seemed also that we had an enormous amount of rain. We were looking at, let's back up a little bit. What do they test when we go down as volunteers? What are we recording?
We're recording temperature, we're recording weather conditions, we have people write down other comments, are there a lot of birds around? What else are they seeing? So just kind of like, some general physical parameters around the water.
Right.
Yep. Air and water temperature.
Air
excuse
and
me.
water
Yes.
temperature. And what we had noticed as well up at the Middle Pond area was how high the water was.
Yes, yeah, and that is troublesome. Stream flow is also something that can completely deter a population from getting to spawning grounds. So when you have those kinds of fluctuations almost daily in water level, you have to manage your boards appropriately to adjust the stream flow so that the fish can actually navigate through it. Unlike salmon, which can physically jump out of the water, river herring can't do that. They have to travel through the water column. So we have to provide appropriate stream flow for them to be able to accommodate that movement upstream.
Right. It was a fascinating experience. I would recommend this to anyone. And the background, you don't count just to count. So what is the background of volunteers counting? Where does this data go?
So we take all the data and spit it out to the state. And then the state gives us an estimation based on how closely we followed their random stratified model for volunteer counts, an appropriate or an estimate of our run sizes. That information is essentially just stored for lengthy periods of time. After about 10 years, you can kind of look back at your data and see how your herring run is doing. And because there's a moratorium on the harvest of herring, you would need those counts essentially to build a sustainable fisheries management plan if you ever wanted to reopen a run to harvest. So they're important for a number of reasons.
Oh, I didn't realize how much data that we've collected too.
Yeah, and they've been monitoring, the Middle Pond area for many, many years. So there's a good history there, of the population coming up.
All right. Final thoughts on the season?
It was a great season. We had really good volunteer turnout at both of the fish ladders. Everyone stayed out there for the full 2 months, needed a little prodding, but everyone did a great job, and, I think we're turning in some really good data this year to the state.
Yeah, definitely, I would agree, versus other years where it's been a bit more trial and error. I
Yeah.
think this was a very well-attended year, and then, of course, fringe benefits to volunteering. Barnstable Clean Water has a volunteer appreciation party at the end of the year, and so does the town of Barnstable for Natural Resources. So anybody that does volunteer to count herring gets to be celebrated at some point in time by the people who have asked them to volunteer their time. So.
That's fantastic, and it was really, truly a wonderful experience, and we'll be back next year.
Excellent.
Great.
We'll be happy to have you.
Thanks so much. Join the staff and friends at the Hyannis Youth and Community Center for the 7th annual Father-Daughter Dance. All children in grades 1 through 7 and their adult companions are welcome. Program coordinator George Noonan joins us with all the exciting details. Little girls grow up so quickly, and the male role models in their life sometimes don't get to spend as much time as they want with them. With me today, Program Director George Noonan. We have a wonderful event coming up. We say fathers and daughters, but it's for really any young little lady with their favorite guy.
Absolutely. The father-daughter luau, or started as a father-daughter dance that Mark Bordley ran a long time ago that I took over when we moved into the HYCC, and it's a father-daughter dance in name only. If there's an uncle, grandfather, neighbor, whoever, coach, doesn't matter who it is. If there's a little girl who wants to attend this dance with someone, they should come.
Excellent. And this has kind of morphed over the years. You had it as a formal dance back in the day, right?
Yeah, we started out, nice dresses, shirts and ties, and you'd notice about 45 minutes of the dance, it was getting kind of hot in there, and ties were coming off, and I was like, well, maybe I should just change up the theme a little bit, and so I thought, what would be good, and luau was easy. Right. Also when it came to we did corsages at first. And a lot of the kids when they would come in, would already have a corsage on. So I was like, okay, so maybe it's not do the corsages anymore. What else could we do? So what about leis? So we do leis for the kids, and so everyone can wear a lei into the room, and just a little more light, a little more casual, a little more easy breezy.
Right. Let's talk easy breezy because there's some games and some food too, right?
Yeah, we do some pretty heavy snacks, cupcakes and cookies and brownies and juice and waters for the kids. And then for games, we do some freeze dance and limbo. Kids love, which kids just love. And we give out some prizes for the kids, from our sponsors, our wonderful partners out there. Right. So it's a fun night. It's a 6:30 to 8:30. A lot of people, what they do is they go out to dinner with their daughter or their special little girl beforehand, or maybe they go out for ice cream afterwards. So we try not to make it too heavy in the middle for them, right, and just make it nice and easy.
Nice and easy. And the date is Father's Day weekend, right?
Father's Day weekend and Friday night of Father's Day, June 14th,
right.
6:30 to 8:30. It's a good time, a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. So, do people need to register for this?
No, they can show up day of. And,
okay.
Day of, and it's $20 per couple.
Okay.
Covers the cost, includes their lay. We do a picture with a nice Hawaiian backdrop, and all the food and decorations help us pay for our DJ and stuff. But yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, it's a great time. It's a fun event. It's great for families. I think it's just another way of us trying to do something for the people we serve.
Fantastic, George. So Father's Day weekend, Friday night, a little dance with the little girls.
That's right. Good times.
Excellent. Thanks so much, George.
My pleasure.
Giddy up, kids. It's a bike rodeo at HYCC, Saturday, June 22nd, 11 to 1. Bring your bike to the HYCC parking lot and show your skills in the obstacle course. Free helmets while supplies last and bike giveaways. Bike inspections by Seaports, appearances by Barnstable Police Department and Hyannis Fire District. Games and more. George Noonan, Program Coordinator at Hyannis Youth and Community Center, gallops into the studio with all the info. Giddy up, little doggies, grab your bikes and maybe a helmet and head on down to HYCC for the bike rodeo. With me today, George Noonan, Program Director. This is one of our favorite events. It teaches safety, but it also is kind of fun for skills too.
It's a cool little event because it's a little different than some of the other stuff we run. Like previously we had our father-daughter dance. We talk about our Easter egg hunt and the Halloween event. This is more about kind of safety and trying to get these kids outside and doing stuff and back on their bikes. Unfortunately, I'd say it's a skill that seems to be going away a little bit, and we really want to encourage kids to be out there on the bikes, and when they're out there, be safe. So if you don't have a helmet, it's okay, because if you come down the rodeo, we'll give you a helmet.
Hey, well, that's an incentive to get right down there anyways,
Yep,
right?
Absolutely, yep. And if you're someone who hasn't ridden your bike in a while, the wonderful people at C Sports, Jeff and Andy Craddock, will be down there, or they'll have some of their staff down there to check out the bikes, make sure they're working okay, maybe turn a couple screws, put a little grease in the chain, tighten up those brakes a little bit, whatever you might need. So that's kind of nice too.
And this event is sort of expanded a little bit into some other stuff. So Barnstable Police Department, Hyannis Fire are there as well?
Yep, Barnstable Police has always been a great partner. Brian Morrison, who's actually stationed out of our building now, he'll be down there helping me out with like the bike rodeo course, and just, so we let the kids go off on the bike, and they have to obey traffic laws, stop at signs, make their signals so they know what's what. So that's awesome. Hyannis Fire likes to come down and visit and hang out and be with the kids. And they bring an ambulance down, and unfortunately sometimes they have to go because they're on duty as well. But they try to make an appearance always every year too, which is nice.
Right. And when we talk about kids being outdoors, Barnstable Recreation obviously has an enormous amount of programs for after school and Saturdays, but just a simple bike ride rather than sitting inside, what does that do for a kid?
I mean, a bike ride for a kid is like, it opens the world to them, to be honest with you. It's really because a bike ride could be so many different things, I remember when I was a kid and I used to ride my bike around my neighborhood in Katuitt. I always pretended it was like, the old show Chips. I thought it was like one of the cow, and my buddies would be like, who are you chasing after and stuff like that. And it becomes, they're games. It's a chance to use your imagination while getting some exercise, and just go out and have fun and just see what's around you.
Right. And the safety of bicycles too, you know, not all of our neighborhoods have sidewalks that these kids can ride on, but it also, you know, this rodeo, when they go through that course, the course is not like super easy. They've got to really learn to do some things.
They have to maneuver. They have to be comfortable on their bike. They have to be willing to turn and stuff like that. And we'll be there to help them through it, but they still have to be willing to trust themselves and get used to moving that bike in through cones and like through a slalom kind of course, things like that. But you know, they have to just be willing to kind of be safe and think about what they're doing and where they're doing it. You know, I mean, we have a lot of quiet neighborhoods in this area. I know my neighborhood where we live is great for riding bikes. It's very quiet, very little traffic in it, but it's not always like that. So you always need to be aware. And even you have to sometimes be even more aware in the quiet ones, because then all of a sudden you're not expecting something and something happens.
Right. And the same thing with the bike rail trail and some of the bike trails is that you have to be cognizant of the fact that you do have to cross streets, that there's people coming up on your left or on your right, and knowing how to maneuver your bike to get out of the way or to move more quickly.
Yeah, we always talk about distracted drivers these days and age, but days and ages, but we also have to worry about distracted riding, because you know, a lot of people wear earphones when they're riding their bike, so you always have to be aware of what's going on around you.
Right. So they'll get a free helmet if they don't have one.
Yep.
And what time is this and when?
It is Saturday, June 22nd from 11 to 1, weather depending. You know, hopefully it's a beautiful, sunny, 75-degree day, you know. Unfortunately, if it does rain, we don't have a makeup day for it. But 11 to 1 in the HYCC parking lot, different intersections of the parking lot, different stuff going on. We'll play a couple of the games with the kids. We'll have the world's slowest bike race where they have to ride their bike to a point without letting their feet hit the ground in the slowest time possible. Wow. Yep.
That builds balance.
It builds balance. It's also just something kind of fun to do. And then we'll also do the avoid the rock course, where we put a whole bunch of sponges down on the ground. And the kids are supposed to avoid all the sponges, go through the whole course and not touch a sponge. So that's always fun too.
It's always fun too. So June 22nd, it's a low impact. It's only an hour or 2 hours out there. You can head to the, you know, after t-ball practice or head back to the beach afterwards, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, come have lunch in Hyannis, go to breakfast, and come to the rodeo. Then the rest of your day is yours. Go to the beach, whatever you need to do.
Excellent. Thanks so much, George.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Up next, things to do, places to go, and people to meet. Grab the clam rake and quahog basket. The 17th annual clamming classes for kids is this weekend. Barnstable's Natural Resource Program offers free shell fishing classes for young people. One on Saturday, June 8th at 10 a.m. and another one Sunday, June 9th at 11 a.m. at the Bridge Street Landing in Osterville. Be prepared to get wet. Shellfish live in wet sand that gets covered by salt water when the high tide is high. The waders, hip boots, or knee boots are helpful. Protective gloves are necessary. Natural Resource staff and town shellfish volunteers will be available to assist any young digger who wants to learn the art of shellfishing. For more information, call Natural Resources during office hours, Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:15 p.m. at 508-790-6272. Comments, suggestions, accolades, connect with us on Facebook, email us, or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works for you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.